Hey, I'm Eiley, and these are stories from behind the scenes of my life as I displayed it on social media. I've been dreading this episode. It makes me sick to my stomach. It's not going to be the hardest one to tell, but this one is now, and I feel really nervous. I feel the need to clarify why I have to talk about this. It's not a subject I speak on often, as the response received is usually worse than if I just hadn't spoken up at all. When I started posting videos on TikTok, it was to fulfill my petty revenge on a girl who had broken my heart, a story we will get to later. I had realized my sexuality and ended my marriage to my husband just 6 months prior. I had begun to date women a few months after separating from my husband, but hadn't found anything serious. Eventually, I met a woman who turned my entire world upside down. I fell head over heels in love within the first week. I remember looking at her and watching the world blur behind her until she was all I saw. I know how cheesy that sounds, but I still vividly remember it happening because it's never happened since. Not because I'd never fall in love again, but because I was never able to trust another woman with my heart. That relationship ended abruptly, and with it went the only solid relationship that I had at the time. I had just come out as a lesbian to my extremely religious family. I separated from my husband, who had been my foundation for 4 years, and I lost my best girlfriend. We had been inseparable since the day we met, and after I came out, I never heard from her again. I was heartbroken. I reached out to a family member and was met with the words, "This was a choice you made, and you have to accept the consequences." After that, I went years without seeing or speaking to most of my family. These were the loneliest years of my life. Every new relationship brought the worst heartache I had ever experienced, knowing that my partner would never meet my parents. Sorry, I had to regroup there for a second. Anyways, heartache led to meltdowns, and meltdowns led to drinking. And though we're on the mend now, my whole world back then felt like it had been ripped out from under me. It's difficult for me to talk about this time in my... Clearly. Jeez, I didn't know it was going to be this hard. Okay. About this time in my life, especially to those who followed me back then. I was constantly going to parties, theme nights, weekend trips with lots of friends, and truly looked like I was living a lavish life. I'm worried about feeling invalidated for that reason. I know what my life looked like. I was the one creating it. But behind the screen, I was just a broken-hearted shell of a human. So when I posted those first few videos, the human connection was everything to me. Many of my relationships were centered around alcohol, and those friendships were surface level at best. If I wasn't the one organizing, then I wasn't being invited. That's why I always planned my own extravagant birthday parties. I had no one who would even think to plan one for me. I overcompensated with ball gowns and champagne to make up for the fact that I didn't truly have many friends at all. Okay, sorry, we have to pause again. This is getting so real. I need you guys to know that I created this life for myself. My highest priority was alcohol, and I put it above everything else, including creating like real solid relationships. But in the last 2 years of sobriety, I have learned that when you pour love into people, they feel safe to pour love back. Alcohol took so much from me, including my ability to care about anything other than my next drink. It took a lot of work to understand that I was the problem. Once I got sober and took ownership of my insecurities, I was able to create relationships that will literally last a lifetime within minutes of knowing some of my now best friends. I'm very happy where I am now, and that's why I'm able to speak so freely about where I was then. Okay, unpause. My start on social media didn't come easy. I had just ended a relationship with a vlogger that many had come to know and love. So the end of our relationship marked my introduction into the deep, dark basements of the internet trolls. I'm gonna talk about this one time and one time only, the internet hate. It happens to everyone, but we don't get to talk about it. Of course, the original threats and twisted messages came with my first wave of viral videos. Mostly angry followers of my ex-girlfriend, demanding the details about a breakup that both violated and traumatized me. Details that I didn't know if I'd ever be ready to share. Each message made my stomach sink with dread, but eventually people moved on and I began to share content every day. I wanted nothing more than to pass my ex and followers. I'm not even ashamed to admit it. As the years went on though, the hate got worse. I did everything that I could to avoid it, but it still popped up. I remember searching purple hair ideas, and my own face and purple hair popped up in a Reddit thread flooded with literal anger about hair. The thing is, I understand the validation. I understand hating something so much that you're able to bond with someone over that mutual hate. I think back to some of the comments that used to haunt me, and I find myself agreeing. I probably did look a little manic. I absolutely did make a fool of myself. I was an alcoholic who had just doubled her annual salary. Of course, I wasn't making the best decisions. The reason that I have to talk about this is because the internet trolls changed my life one night, and it's a big part of my story. It was a weird night. I had flown to Cyprus for a few weeks, a decision that was made on a rainy afternoon in Thailand. I got sick of the rain and booked a flight to the first place that Google told me was sunny. I didn't even know where Cyprus was. I actually thought I was headed to Greece. Anyways, I had gotten sober again. It was about 2 weeks at this point. I hadn't posted on social media since I quit drinking because the hate was really getting to me. I had been traveling for a few months at this point and had made many ridiculous, albeit hilarious, mistakes, and the internet tore me apart for each and every one of them. So on a quiet night in Cyprus, after 2 weeks of sobriety, I pulled up my Reddit snark page. The latest, Eiley has been arrested. I looked down, sorry, it's hilarious now. I looked down at my unbound hands, knowing that I hadn't left the apartment in a week. What the fuck? It just wasn't true. A flat-out lie made up by a stranger and believed by many. I can't explain the feeling that I felt in this moment. It was anger, confusion, embarrassment, but most of all, it was an overwhelming sense of you mean nothing to me. In that moment, I made 3 decisions. The first, to order a bottle of vodka and drink until I passed out. The second, to never open Reddit again because no one's opinion of me was worth feeling bad enough to give up my sobriety. And the third was to finally get sober and fix my fucking life so that I never had to feel this way again. And fix it, I did.